Let me share something with you right now that most people never really get about persistence. They think persistence is just about grinding it out, forcing yourself to keep going no matter how much you don't want to. But that's not it. That's not the real thing. Here's what's actually happening. Every single day, you are repeating something to yourself, calmly or not, and that repetition, what you're assuming, what you're expecting, what you're certain about, is quietly setting the tone for your life. It's not just your actions that matter, it's the quiet, steady, repeated thoughts you hold about yourself and your world. Those thoughts harden into facts, not right away, not in a single leap, but through calm, persistent repetition. Consider this: reality isn't happening to you, it's reflecting you. I want you to really hear that. Reality isn't pushing you around, it's echoing back what you stand for inside, what you truly accept as true. Most people are running around trying to patch up what's happening on the outside, but they never look at what they are assuming on the inside. They never notice the story they're telling themselves over and over, day in and day out. And that story, that repeated expectation, is shaping everything. Think about this for a second. Every result you have right now, your income, your relationships, your habits, those are all the outer proof of what you've been repeating to yourself. You may not have said the words out loud. You may not even have noticed the thought. But if you look back, you'll see there's a consistent pattern, a steady assumption running underneath it all. And persistence, in the way I'm talking about it, isn't about wearing yourself out. It's about calmly, deliberately holding an inner assumption until it becomes your outer reality. Let me explain what's really happening under the surface. The mind works by habit. Whatever you repeat, you start to believe. Whatever you believe, you expect. And whatever you expect, you start to live out. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's just the way it works. You become the kind of person who expects certain things, and those things start showing up for you. Not because you chased them, but because you quietly persisted in your assumption of them. Here's what most people don't realize: you're always persisting in something. You're never neutral. You might think you're just waiting to see what happens, but even that is a form of repetition. It's the repetition of doubt, or the repetition of hoping without deciding. If you want to change your results, you have to change what you're repeating to yourself. You have to choose a new assumption and calmly repeat it again and again until it feels natural, until it feels like a fact. It doesn't matter if you feel like it's true at first. It matters that you keep calmly returning to it. You don't have to strain, you don't have to force belief. You just have to persist in the direction you want to go. The moment you do this, everything begins to shift. Not always overnight, but always over time. Calm repetition hardens into fact. That's the principle, and it's always working, whether you know it or not. Let's get real about how this actually plays out in your life. Most people think they're just reacting to circumstances, but here's what's really happening. They are unknowingly creating those circumstances through their repeated assumptions. You don't get what you want. You get what you assume, what you persist in expecting, day after day, quietly, almost without noticing. You don't see it at first, but look closely and you'll spot the pattern. It's like a groove that gets deeper each time you run your mind over it. Think about someone who always expects to be passed over at work. Maybe they don't say it out loud, but every day they're repeating that assumption in the back of their mind. Every time they see a new opportunity, some little voice says, "That's not for you." Over time, that calm, quiet repetition becomes a fact in their world, not because the world is against them, but because they've persisted in that belief. The outer world just follows the inner pattern. Here's what most people don't realize: your identity comes first, your results follow. What you are inside is what you get outside. You might try all kinds of action, but if your deep, repeated belief is that you're not worthy or not able, your actions will somehow line up with that belief. It's not about effort alone, it's about the calm, steady repetition of who you think you are. Let me share something with you. Changing your results isn't about fighting the old, it's about choosing the new, deliberately, calmly, over and over. It's about picking a new assumption, a new identity, and quietly persisting in that. Even when your senses tell you nothing's changing, you keep returning to your chief aim, your definite assumption. That's the real work. That's the real persistence. It's not about willpower, it's about calm, repeated direction of your thought. Just like a river carves stone, your repeated, calm assumption carves out reality. You don't have to force it. You don't have to get tense about it. You just have to persist, without strain. Decide what you want to be true and calmly repeat it to yourself. Every time you do, you're deepening that groove. Eventually, it becomes the path of least resistance. It becomes fact. Most people wait for evidence before they commit. They want to see it on the outside before they'll believe it on the inside. But it doesn't work that way. The outer follows the inner. The moment you persist in a new assumption calmly and without strain, you set a new pattern in motion. It might feel awkward at first, but the more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes. And as it becomes natural inside, it begins to show up outside. Now let's talk about why calm repetition works so powerfully. Your mind and your nervous system are always listening. Every time you repeat an idea to yourself, especially when you do it calmly, without strain, you're teaching your mind what to expect. You're feeding your subconscious instructions, telling it, this is who I am, this is what I accept as true. And your subconscious doesn't argue. It just gets to work making that assumption into fact. Here's what most people don't realize. Your subconscious is always on. It's not just working when you're affirming something on purpose. It's working on whatever you repeat habitually. If you calmly repeat doubt, you get more doubt. If you calmly repeat confidence, you get more confidence. The principle never turns off. It just takes whatever you persist in and hands it back to you as reality. Consider this. When you calmly repeat a new assumption, you're not trying to convince yourself through force. You're simply introducing a new pattern and holding it with quiet certainty. It's the calmness that matters. Strain and anxiety actually signal to your subconscious that you don't quite believe it. But calm repetition says, this is so, this is normal, this is who I am now. That's when things start to shift. Think about how a tree grows. It doesn't strain, it doesn't force itself. It just keeps reaching for the light, calmly, steadily, day after day. Your assumptions work the same way. You don't have to get frantic about changing them. You just have to keep returning, calmly, to your chosen idea. Over time, that calm repetition becomes part of you. It becomes fact, and it shows up in your world. Let me explain what's really happening here. The moment you stop treating your desires as distant or unlikely and start regarding them as normal, as facts in progress, you begin to change your reality, not through strain, but through calm, persistent assumption. And the more you do it, the more your mind accepts it. Eventually, it becomes automatic. You don't have to try anymore. You just live it. Most people never do this because they're waiting for proof. They want to see it before they believe it. But the order is always the same. Calm, inner repetition first, outer evidence second. The more calmly you repeat your chosen aim, the faster it becomes real for you, not because you forced it, but because you persisted, without strain. Let's get into how you actually do this step by step. First, you have to pick your definite chief aim. That's Napoleon Hill's phrase, but what it really means is you choose what you want to be true for you. You decide, this is who I am, this is what my life is about, not someday, now. You pick it, you claim it, and you start to treat it as your new fact. Here's what most people don't realize. If you don't pick your aim, something else will pick it for you. Your old habits, your old assumptions, the opinions of others, they'll fill that space if you don't fill it yourself. So you start by getting clear about what you want to persist in. What do you want to calmly repeat to yourself day after day until it becomes your reality? Second, you use autosuggestion. That's just a fancy word for self-talk, what you're telling yourself consciously and unconsciously all day long. You start feeding your mind with the assumption you want to become fact, not with strain, not with desperation, but with calm, steady repetition. You say it to yourself. You write it down. You imagine it. You feel it as real now. Third, you cultivate faith. And by faith, I don't mean blind hope. I mean the calm, settled feeling that what you are assuming is now your truth. You don't have to see it yet. You just have to keep returning to it calmly until your mind accepts it as normal. That's faith. Not straining, not wishing, but calmly persisting in your assumption, no matter what the outside world looks like. Fourth, you persist. This is where most people fall off. They try it for a few days, then quit because nothing seems to happen. But remember, every time you calmly repeat your assumption, you're hardening it into fact. It takes time. Just like water shapes stone, your calm, repeated thought shapes your reality. You don't stop just because you don't see results right away. You keep going, calmly, steadily, until it becomes your fact. Fifth, you organize your thought. This means you don't let stray doubts or old assumptions run wild. You notice them, and then you calmly return to your chosen aim. You bring your mind back again and again to what you want to be true. That's organized thought. It's not about being perfect, it's about returning calmly and consistently to your chief aim. Think about how powerful this is. Most people live their whole lives reacting to what's happening around them. They let their circumstances tell them who they are and what's possible. But you don't have to do that. You can choose to persist in a new assumption, calmly and steadily, until the world catches up to you. You don't have to wait. You don't have to strain. You just have to decide and persist. Let me share something with you. The moment you stop waiting for circumstances to change and start calmly repeating your new assumption, you take control. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being a creator of circumstance. That's what persistence really is. It's not just hanging on. It's calmly, deliberately holding to your chosen idea, no matter what the world throws at you. Here's what most people don't realize. Their repeated thoughts, feelings, and expectations are shaping their experience every single day. They might think they're just reacting, but really, they're creating patterns that repeat over and over until they change their inner assumption. You can see it in every area of life. The person who always expects to struggle keeps struggling. The person who calmly expects things to work out finds that they do over time. It's not luck, it's not fate, it's calm, persistent assumption, hardening into fact. Consider this, your identity comes first. Who you are inside is what shows up outside. If you see yourself as someone who always falls short, you'll keep finding ways to fall short. If you see yourself as someone who always comes through, you'll keep finding ways to succeed. The outer is just a reflection of the inner. The moment you change your inner assumption and persist in it calmly, the outer begins to shift. You don't have to convince anyone else. You don't have to argue with reality. You just have to calmly repeat your new assumption until it feels natural. That's how reality changes, not through strain, but through calm, persistent direction of thought. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes, and the more your world begins to reflect it. Let me explain what's really happening in your mind when you persist like this. Your brain is always looking for patterns. It wants to make things automatic, effortless. Every time you calmly repeat an idea, you're building a new pattern. At first, it feels unfamiliar. It might even feel fake, but the more you calmly repeat it, the more your brain accepts it as normal. That's how habits are formed, not just habits of action, but habits of thought, habits of expectation, habits of identity. Here's what most people don't realize. Your old patterns will try to pull you back. You might feel doubt, you might feel resistance, but that's just a sign that you're changing. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to strain. You just have to calmly return to your chosen aim. Every time you do, you're weakening the old pattern and strengthening the new one. Think about it like learning to ride a bike. The first time, it feels awkward. You wobble, you might fall. But the more you practice calmly and consistently, the easier it gets. Eventually, it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's automatic. That's how calm repetition works. You're training your mind to accept a new normal. Let me share something with you. The more you calmly repeat your new assumption, the less effort it takes. Strain comes from trying to force belief. But calm repetition is about letting it settle in, like water soaking into the ground. It might take time, but it's working, even when you can't see it. The moment you stop trying to force it and just calmly persist, things start to shift much faster. Most people give up too soon. They think if it doesn't happen right away, it's not working. But consider this. Every calm repetition is a step closer to making your new assumption a fact. You don't have to see results right away. You just have to keep going calmly until it becomes your new reality. Let's look at some everyday examples so you can see how this works in real life. Think about someone who's always late. They might say, "I'm just not a punctual person." That's their assumption. Every time they're late, it confirms the assumption. But the real cause isn't the traffic or their schedule. It's the calm, repeated belief that they're not punctual. If they want to change, they don't need to fight the clock. They need to calmly persist in a new assumption. I am always on time. At first, it feels odd, but the more they repeat it, the more natural it becomes. Soon, being on time is just who they are. Or take someone who believes they're unlucky in relationships. They might think, I never meet the right person. That's an assumption, calmly repeated over time. It shapes their experiences, their choices, even the way they show up. But if they calmly persist in a new assumption, I am the kind of person who attracts great relationships, eventually, their reality shifts to match it. Not overnight, but through calm, steady repetition. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to fix every little thing on the outside. You don't have to control every detail. You just have to persist in a new inner assumption, calmly and steadily. The outer world will catch up. That's how it always works. Reality follows your repeated, calm expectation. It's not about hustle. It's about calm, steady, persistent assumption. Now let's talk about what gets in the way. Most people start out strong. They pick a new aim, they repeat it for a few days, and then they get discouraged when nothing seems to change. The old doubts come up. The old patterns try to pull them back. They start to think, maybe this doesn't work for me. But let me share something with you. That's just the old assumption holding on. It's part of the process. You don't have to fight it. You just have to calmly return to your chosen aim. Think about this. Every time you calmly repeat your new assumption, you're weakening the old pattern. You're building a new groove in your mind. It might feel slow at first, but that's just how it works. The longer you persist, calmly and without strain, the stronger the new pattern becomes. Eventually, it overtakes the old one. That's when things start to change on the outside. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to never doubt. You just have to keep coming back calmly to your chosen aim. Even if you slip, even if you catch yourself thinking the old thought, that's okay. Just return calmly to your new assumption. That's real persistence. That's how you change your reality. Consider this. Doubt only has power when you give it attention. When you calmly ignore doubt and return to your chosen assumption, you're taking your power back. You're training your mind to focus on what you want, not what you fear. And the more you do this, the easier it gets. Doubt fades and faith grows. Not through force, but through calm, steady repetition. Let me explain what's really happening. Every time you calmly repeat your new assumption, you're sending a signal to your mind and your nervous system. You're saying, this is who I am now, this is what I expect. And your mind listens. It starts to filter your experiences, your choices, even your feelings through that new lens. Over time, your whole reality shifts to match your new assumption. Most people don't see this because they're too busy reacting to the world. They let their circumstances tell them who they are, but you can turn it around. You can decide who you are and persist in that assumption, calmly and without strain. The world will follow. It always does. Let's get practical. How do you actually put this into practice? Start by picking one area of your life. Maybe it's your work, your relationships, your health, whatever feels most important to you right now. Ask yourself, what do I keep assuming here? What pattern keeps showing up? Be honest. Don't judge it, just notice it. Then decide what you want to assume instead. Pick a new aim, a new identity, a new pattern. Make it simple. Make it clear. I am confident in my work. I attract great relationships. I am healthy and strong. Whatever it is, claim it as your new fact. Now, calmly repeat it to yourself. Not once, not twice, but over and over, every day. Say it in your mind. Write it down. Imagine it as true. Feel what it would be like if it were already a fact. Don't force it. Don't strain. Just calmly persist. When doubts come up, and they will, don't fight them. Just notice them and calmly return to your chosen assumption. That's the whole game. Calm, steady, persistent repetition. Over time, your mind will accept it as normal, and when that happens, your world will shift to match it. Let me share something with you about faith. Most people think faith is something you either have or you don't. But faith is just calm, repeated assumption. The more you calmly repeat your chosen idea, the more you believe it. The more you believe it, the more you expect it. And the more you expect it, the more it shows up in your life. Faith grows through calm repetition, not through struggle. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to feel certain at first. You just have to persist calmly. Over time, your mind will catch up. The feeling of faith will grow as you calmly repeat your new assumption. You don't have to force belief. You just have to keep coming back calmly to your chosen fact. Think about this. Every successful person in any field has mastered this principle. They persist in their aim, calmly and steadily, no matter what the world says. They don't let setbacks or doubts pull them off course. They just keep calmly repeating their chosen assumption until it becomes fact. That's the real secret of persistence. Now let's tie this back to organized thought. Organized thought means you don't let your mind run wild. You direct it calmly and steadily toward your chosen aim. When stray doubts or old assumptions pop up, you don't get upset. You just calmly return to your new assumption. Over time, this becomes automatic. Your mind starts to work for you, not against you. Here's what most people don't realize. You're always organizing your thoughts around something. If you don't choose your aim, your old habits and assumptions will do it for you. But the moment you pick a new aim and calmly persist in it, you're taking control. You're organizing your mind around your chosen fact. That's how you change your life from the inside out. Consider this. You don't have to fix every little negative thought. You just have to keep calmly returning to your chosen aim. The more you do this, the more your mind aligns with your new assumption. Eventually, it becomes effortless. Your new fact becomes automatic. Let me explain what's really happening when you persist like this. You're building a new identity. Not just in your mind, but in your nervous system, your emotions, your actions. Your whole being starts to line up with your new assumption. At first, it feels unfamiliar. It might even feel uncomfortable, but the more you calmly repeat it, the more natural it becomes. Here's what most people don't realize. Your outer results are just the final step in the process. The real change happens inside through calm, persistent repetition. The outer world is just catching up to your new identity. You don't have to chase results. You just have to persist calmly in your new assumption. The results will follow every time. Let's look at another example. Suppose you want to succeed in your career. You might have an old assumption that says, "Success is hard for me." Every time you hit a setback, that assumption gets repeated. But if you pick a new aim, "Success comes naturally to me," and calmly repeat it day after day, things start to shift. You begin to see new opportunities. You start to act differently, even without thinking about it. Other people respond to you differently. The outer world lines up with your new inner assumption. Here's what most people don't realize. The world doesn't change first. You do. The moment you calmly persist in a new assumption, everything begins to rearrange itself to match your new fact. It might take time, but it always happens. Calm repetition hardens into fact. That's the principle, and it's always working, whether you know it or not. Now let's talk about the difference between seeking and having. Most people are always seeking approval, seeking results, seeking change. But seeking keeps your desire at arm's length. It says, "I don't have it yet." Having is different. Having means you calmly accept your aim as your fact here and now. You don't strain for it. You don't chase it. You calmly assume it's yours, and you persist in that assumption, no matter what. Consider this. The moment you shift from seeking to having, everything begins to change. You stop chasing, and you start attracting. You stop doubting, and you start knowing. You stop reacting to the world, and you start directing it. That's the real power of calm, persistent assumption. Let me share something with you about desire transmuted into action. Most people think desire is just wishing. But real desire, when combined with calm, persistent assumption, turns into action, effortless, natural action. You don't have to force yourself. You just find yourself doing the things that line up with your new assumption. The action comes out of the new identity you've built through calm repetition. Here's what most people don't realize. You're not trying to make yourself act differently. You're becoming the kind of person who naturally acts differently because your new assumption feels normal. That's how desire becomes action, not through strain, but through calm, steady repetition of your chosen fact. Think about this. Every time you calmly repeat your chosen assumption, you're building momentum. At first, it feels slow. You might not see much change, but over time, the momentum builds. The new assumption becomes your new normal. Action becomes easy. Results start to show up. You're not pushing anymore. You're being pulled by your new identity. Let me explain what's really happening. The world is just a mirror. It reflects what you calmly persist in assuming about yourself and your life. When you change your assumption and you persist in it calmly, the mirror changes. You don't have to chase the reflection. You just have to change what you're projecting onto it. That's the real secret. Calm repetition hardens into fact. Here's what I want you to do. Test this for yourself. Pick one new assumption. Make it simple, make it clear, make it something you really want to be true. Then calmly repeat it to yourself every day. Don't strain, don't force, just calmly persist. When doubts come up, notice them and calmly return to your chosen aim. Over time, you'll see the shift, you'll feel the difference, and when you do, you'll know. Calm repetition hardens into fact. Persist without strain and watch your world change.